You have been trained, almost without knowing it, to worship your fears. You rehearse them in your mind before sleep. You carry them into your morning. You speak from them when you talk about your future. You sit at a table with your own possibilities laid out before you, yet your eyes are fixed on everything that could go wrong. Then you wonder why your courage is weak, why your energy is low, why your life keeps circling the same small field. You say you want success, but your dominant thoughts are shaped like disasters. Understand this now. No man can build a great life while bowing to what he dreads. Life responds to the picture you hold, not the apology you whisper. Fear is not merely a feeling, it is a direction. When you dwell on what you fear, you are already moving toward it in imagination. The mind does not sit idle. When you see a failure in your thoughts again and again, your mind begins to arrange your actions to match that picture. You hesitate where you should act. You avoid where you should advance. You delay where you should decide. You speak doubt where you should speak resolve. By degrees, without ever wishing for it, you grow into the very result you spent years fearing. You become the servant of an image you could have changed. Success operates by the same law, but in the opposite direction. When you dwell on what you want with clarity, with repetition, with feeling, you give your mind a target. You begin to ask different questions, see different pathways, recognize different doors. The man whose dominant thought is, "I must not fail," will creep and crouch his way through life, forever pulling back his own hand. The man whose dominant thought is, "I will find a way to win," stands up straighter. His very posture signals to his mind, we are going forward. The outer motion follows the inner picture. Many men say, "I cannot control what I think. Thoughts just come." That is a confession of laziness, not a law of the mind. You cannot control every thought that knocks, but you can control which ones you invite in, which you feed, which you allow to sit at your table and give counsel. Fear will always knock. The question is not whether it appears, the question is whether you give it a chair or tell it to wait outside while you confer with desire, faith, and purpose. A man who is serious about his future must become a guardian at the gate of his own mind. Consider how much time you have given to imagining failure. You picture losing your job before you even apply for a better one. You picture being laughed at before you even speak. You picture your plans collapsing before you even draw them clearly. Each of these pictures is like a rehearsal. You walk through the scene in advance, feeling the shame, the pain, the disappointment. You call this being realistic, as if nature had appointed you to be a prophet of your own defeat. In truth, you are misusing your greatest tool. Imagination was given to you not to predict your ruin, but to design your success. Ask yourself bluntly, what do you think about when you are alone? When no one is demanding your attention, where does your mind travel? Do you see yourself growing, learning, building, improving? Or do you see yourself stumbling, quitting, being rejected, being exposed? Those private images are not harmless fantasies. They are instructions to your nervous system, commands to your courage, limits on your ambition. A man cannot think like a beggar and live like a king. He cannot think like a victim and move like a builder. You may say, but fear protects me. It keeps me from danger. There is a place for caution. It is wise to measure a plan, to foresee obstacles, to prepare against genuine risks. But that is not the same as dwelling in fear. Caution asks, what must I know so that I may advance safely? Fear mutters, I dare not move at all. Caution studies the map so that the journey can proceed. Fear burns the map and stays in the hut. If your so-called caution does nothing but keep you small, It is not wisdom, it is cowardice dressed in old clothes. Think of your mind as a field. What you water grows. You cannot spend all week watering the weeds of worry, and then on the weekend wonder why no harvest of confidence appears. If your conversations are full of what if I fail, and what if they reject me, and what if I lose, those phrases are buckets of water poured upon fear. You must reverse this habit deliberately. Begin to speak differently. What if I learn? What if this works? What if this effort begins a chain of opportunities I cannot yet see? These questions may feel unnatural at first, but they are the seeds of a new crop. The law is simple and merciless. Your dominant thought shapes your direction. Not the stray idea that flickers for a moment, but the steady stream you return to again and again. If when your mind is free, it runs straight back to what you dread, then you are giving your future over to fear. If instead you train it to return to what you desire, a clear vision of the man you want to be, the work you want to do, the contribution you want to make, then you are giving your future over to purpose. Life will not force that choice on you. You must make it. Look at how fear has already limited your actions. How many chances have you let pass while you rehearsed disasters? How many times have you remained silent when you should have spoken because you pictured yourself being humiliated? How many ventures have you never begun because, in your mind, you had already watched them collapse? You are haunted not by what actually happened, but by what you imagined. Your own thought has been your strictest jailer. It has kept you behind bars that do not exist anywhere but in your skull. Here is the truth. The future does not yet exist. It is a field of possibility, not a fixed disaster waiting to crush you. When you focus your thoughts on what you fear, you are using your power to build a cage inside that open field. When you focus on what you want, you are using that same power to build a path. The energy is the same, only the direction changes. You are not weak, you are misdirected. Your imagination is not broken. It has been hired as a servant to your worries instead of to your will. Some will say, it is irresponsible to think of what I want when there is so much that could go wrong. I tell you, it is more irresponsible to let fear waste your entire life. Thinking of what you want does not mean ignoring risk. It means deciding which picture will lead. You can acknowledge your fears without enthroning them. You can say, yes, failure is possible. Yes, I may be rejected, I may lose, I may stumble. Then you add, but I am not crossing this life to avoid scratches. I am crossing it to fulfill a purpose. Desire must be given the head seat at the table. Fear may sit in the corner as a cautious advisor, not as king. You must begin to use your mind the way successful men use theirs, as an instrument of direction, not as a theater for horror plays. When they face a challenge, they do not spend their nights imagining disgrace, they spend them imagining solutions. They do not rehearse how they will be crushed, they rehearse how they will respond. They picture themselves standing firm, thinking clearly, acting bravely. Then, when the test comes, their mind is not surprised. It has walked this ground before. That is the power you have squandered by letting fear dominate your inner world. You can reclaim it. Do not wait until you feel fearless to do this. You may wait your whole life. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means the dominance of purpose over fear. In the same way, focusing your thoughts on what you want does not require that fear disappear. It requires that you give your attention, your imagination, your planning time to your aims instead of to your terrors. When fear speaks, you listen just long enough to learn what practical steps you should take, then you turn back to your vision. You refuse to perform endless rituals of disaster in your mind. You will need discipline for this. Your thoughts have run wild for years, like untamed livestock trampling every field. The first time you try to hold them to a chosen direction, they will buck and kick. You will sit down to think of what you want, and within a minute you will find yourself thinking of everything that might go wrong. Do not be discouraged. This is not proof that you cannot change. It is proof that habits are strong. When you notice your mind running back to fear, you gently but firmly pull it back. You say, no. We are not rehearsing ruin again. We are imagining the success I am working toward. You do this 10 times, 100 times, 1,000. Eventually, the mind learns its new path. One powerful way to train this habit is to give your desire a clear shape. Vague wishes cannot command the mind. I want to do better is too cloudy. Your imagination cannot see it. Fear, meanwhile, offers vivid pictures. You losing your home, you being ridiculed, you failing publicly. If you want your desires to compete, you must make them just as concrete. Describe in detail the work you want to be doing, the kind of man you want to be known as, the way you want to handle difficulties. Write it. See it. Return to it. The clearer the picture, the more power it has to pull your thoughts away from fear's shadows. Another way is to notice your speech. Thought and speech travel together. When you catch yourself saying, knowing my luck, this will fail, or with my record, nothing good lasts, or I'm expecting the worst, you must stop mid-sentence if you can. Correct yourself aloud. Replace it with, I am preparing for the best I can create, or I expect my efforts to bear fruit in time, or I will handle whatever comes and I am aiming for victory. It may feel strange at first, but you are not talking to impress others. You are talking to re-educate your own mind. Ask yourself this final question to end this first reflection. If someone sat and listened to every private thought you think about your future, would they conclude that you are moving toward success or retreating toward defeat? Would they hear a man building or a man hiding? If their answer would shame you, good. Let that shame be brief and useful. Let it push you to a new decision. From this moment, you will no longer use your thought as an enemy of your own progress. You will learn to aim it. You will learn to harness it. You will discipline it to dwell more often on what you want than on what you fear. You owe yourself that much. You owe your future family, your future work, your future influence that much. For when you change the direction of your thoughts, you do not merely change your own life, you change the lives of everyone who would have suffered from your smallness. Fear keeps a man small. Desire, clearly held and constantly fed, gives him stature. Begin now to shift that inner weight. The world outside will, in time, adjust to match it. Once you admit that your thoughts are not harmless visitors but builders of your fate, you must take up the most serious work of your life, training them. A man will take years to learn a trade, decades to master a profession, yet he lets his thinking remain undisciplined and then wonders why his results are erratic. The mind is a factory in which every circumstance of your life is first assembled in blueprint form. If you allow fear to oversee that factory, do not be surprised when your days are filled with structures of hesitation, regret, and half-lived chances. If you wish to change the output, you must change the foreman. Desire, not dread, must give the orders. Begin with this understanding. Your subconscious mind does not argue with you. It does not debate your statements. It does not ask, is this good for him? It accepts what you repeat with emotion and works day and night to make it real. If day after day you feed it phrases soaked in fear, I always fail. Nothing works out for me. I cannot handle difficulty. Men like me never succeed. It registers them as commands. It then alters your perception and your behavior to keep you in line with those commands. You miss chances because you do not see them as meant for you. You pull back when you should lean forward. You give less than your full effort because, deep down, you think effort is pointless. Now, consider the opposite. Suppose you begin to tell your subconscious a new story. I am capable of learning. I can persist longer than I feel like persisting. Opportunities fit for me exist, and I am moving toward them. I handle difficulty with growing strength. My efforts compound in time. At first, these words may sound strange in your own mouth. Your feelings may object. Old memories may rise as witnesses of the opposite. But remember, the subconscious is not interested in complaints from the past. It obeys the voice that speaks most often and with most feeling now. If you persist in giving it new instructions, it will eventually take them as law. This is not magic. It is simple conditioning. A man who constantly tells himself that he is clumsy will move through a room differently than a man who tells himself he is agile. The first will approach obstacles with tension, expecting to stumble. The second will move with more confidence and thus be more likely to pass smoothly. The body follows the mind's orders. When you fill your thoughts with images of yourself succeeding, speaking clearly, working diligently, persisting under pressure, solving problems, you are rehearsing victory. When the moment comes, you will not feel like an imposter in that scene. You will feel like an actor stepping into a role he has practiced. To make this practical, set aside a small portion of each day to tell your mind what to dwell on. Do not leave it to wander. Desire must be made specific. Take a sheet of paper and write in clear language what you want your life to lean toward. Not a vague better days, but concrete aims. The kind of work you intend to do, the strength of character you intend to build, the way you intend to respond to challenges. Then, once in the morning and once at night, read these lines slowly and imagine them as already in motion. Feel for a few minutes what it would be like to live that way. You are giving your subconscious a detailed picture to work on instead of the blurry haze of your worries. In the beginning, fear will interrupt. As you picture yourself standing firm, it will whisper, you know you panic. You know you hesitate. As you see yourself prospering, it will mutter, you have never had such success. Who are you to imagine this? Do not argue endlessly with these voices. They grow stronger by debate. Simply acknowledge them and then return to the picture you have chosen. It is like training a stubborn animal. Each time it wanders, you bring it back without rage, without despair, but with unbending firmness. Over weeks and months, the distance it strays grows shorter. Eventually, it learns the path. You must also attend carefully to what you feed your mind during the day. Thoughts do not arise in isolation. They are influenced by everything you see, hear, and repeat. If you spend your leisure hours listening to talk that is soaked in fear, endless tales of calamity, gossip about how nothing improves, jokes at the expense of anyone who tries, you are pouring fresh fuel on the fires of dread. Then you sit down alone and expect to think boldly about your future. It will not happen. You cannot fill a cup with sour water and taste sweetness. Choose your influences with the same care you would choose the materials from which to build a house. Seek stories of men who have overcome their circumstances, not as distant legends, but as proof that the law works in their favor because they acted in harmony with it. Read works that strengthen your belief in cause and effect, books that show you how thought, decision, and action produce results. Spend time in conversation with those who speak of plans, improvements, solutions, not only of ills. It is not about pretending the world has no problems. It is about choosing to focus on the men who meet those problems with courage instead of surrender. Fear thrives on vagueness. When your future is a fog, fear strolls freely within it, enlarging every shadow. One way to weaken fear is to replace uncertainty with definite plans. The more clearly you outline your next steps, the less room your mind has to fill the unknown with horrors. Suppose you are changing your trade. If you do nothing but say, "What if I fail in this new field?" your imagination will produce 100 scenes of disaster. But if you sit down and write, "This month I will learn these 3 skills. I will speak to these 2 people. I will save this much. I will measure my progress by these signs," then your thought has something constructive to do. Energy that would have gone into fear now goes into preparation. Another trap you must avoid is dwelling on what you do not want. Many men think they are focusing on their desires, when in truth, they are merely describing their fears with different words. They say, "I want not to be poor. I want not to be afraid. I want not to be alone. I want not to be trapped in this job." Notice how every phrase centers on the very condition they dread. The mind, hearing this, sees poverty, fear, loneliness, and stagnation. It does not see abundance, courage, companionship, or advancement. To change your direction, you must reverse the structure of your statements. Say instead, "I am moving toward greater financial strength. I am growing in courage. I am building deep, healthy relationships. I am advancing into work that stretches and rewards me." Now your thought has something positive to grasp. You will discover how often your tongue betrays your loyalties. Listen to yourself in ordinary conversation. When someone asks about your future, do you answer with hope shaped by intention, or do you spread your fears on the table as if they were facts? You may believe you are only being honest, but honesty does not require prophecy of doom. You can acknowledge your current challenges without decorating your speech with phrases that chain you to them. Say, "I have work to do, and I am doing it," rather than "knowing my luck, nothing will change." Say, "This will require persistence, but I am prepared to persist," rather than "I expect the worst." Faith and fear both rely on imagination. Fear believes in a future filled with pain. Faith believes in a future shaped by purpose and effort. Both are unseen. Both require belief. The question is not whether you believe in something you cannot see. You already do. The question is what image you choose to invest that belief in. When you catch yourself pouring belief into disaster, pull it back and pour it into your best defined aim. Tell yourself, "If I have the power to picture ruin that has not yet occurred, I have the power to picture victory that has not yet appeared." Understand that this is not about ignoring suffering or denying the reality of hardship. There is no virtue in closing your eyes to the facts. The virtue lies in deciding which facts will govern your imagination. 2 men can face the same difficulty. One thinks only of how it might crush him. The other thinks of how it might refine him, toughen him, or redirect him toward a wiser path. The event is the same, the path of thought differs. And because their thoughts differ, their actions and outcomes diverge. Fear will have the first man hiding from every similar challenge in the future. Desire, focused on growth, will have the second man better prepared each time he meets resistance. There is a secret here. When you steadily focus your thoughts on what you want, you grow more sensitive to any detail in your surroundings that relates to that desire. You notice hints, openings, and connections that others overlook. It is not that those opportunities did not exist before. It is that your mind was too occupied with fear to see them. A man who constantly worries about being deceived will see trickery where none exist and will miss genuine offers of help. A man who constantly thinks of developing his skills will see, in the same situation, a chance to learn or contribute. The outer world is one. The inner filter changes everything. You must also be prepared for a subtle resistance. The part of you that has grown comfortable living under fear's rule. As strange as it sounds, there is a kind of safety in expecting the worst. If you are certain of disaster, you need not risk hope. You need not exert your full effort. You can say, "Why try?" and go back to your familiar complaints. When you begin to focus on what you want, you strip yourself of that excuse. You can no longer hide behind, "It would not have worked anyway," because you are now committed to making it work. This is confronting. It demands maturity. Ask yourself plainly, have you been loyal to your fears because they shield you from the responsibility of pursuing your desires? Have you clung to worst-case visions because they give you a reason not to act? If the answer is yes, do not drown in shame. Simply recognize that you have been using the power of your thought against yourself. Then choose a nobler use. Say, "I will no longer use my mind to construct reasons for staying small. I will use it to construct plans for growing tall." That decision alone can split your life into a before and an after. Remember that thought alone is not enough. A man cannot sit in a chair, imagining a strong body, and expect his muscles to grow without movement. In the same way, focusing on what you want is the first step. Acting toward it is the second. But here is the connection. When your thoughts are dominated by desire instead of fear, you are far more willing to take those actions. The burden of self-sabotage is lifted. You rise to make the difficult call, to knock on the intimidating door, to take the first faltering steps into a new field, because your mind is now full of images of success rather than rehearsals of shame. Thought fuels action. Action confirms thought. Together they form a loop that can spiral upward or downward. Every day offers you a battlefield inside your own skull. Fear arrives early, reminding you of every past failure and every possible embarrassment. Desire stands quietly, offering you a picture of what could be if you commit. You choose which one you will supply, with words, with attention, with imagination. The one you feed becomes stronger. The one you starve becomes weaker. No one else can make this choice for you, and no one else will suffer the consequences as directly as you will. Look ahead a year from now. If you continue to focus mainly on what you fear, where will you be? Most likely in the same place, only more tired, more cynical, more convinced that life is against you. Now imagine instead that starting today, you begin the work of shifting your thoughts toward what you want. Not perfectly, not without setbacks, but persistently. You correct your speech, you carve out time to visualize your aims, you guard your mind against constant fear-feeding influences, you turn worries into specific plans. A year from now, will you be in the same place? It is nearly impossible. The law does not allow it. Change the dominant current of thought, and the river of action cannot remain the same. You have used the law unconsciously up to now. You have seen how faithfully it obeys your repeated fears. It is time to become conscious and deliberate. Focus your thoughts on what you want with the same intensity, frequency, and emotion with which you once focused on what you dread. Let that desire be definite. Let it be tied to action. Let it be reinforced every day in speech and imagination. Do this, and slowly, then suddenly, your outer life will begin to mirror a new master. Not fear, but purpose. There comes a moment in every serious man's life when he must put his own thinking on trial. Not his neighbor's, not his family, not his employer, his own. He must ask with ruthless honesty, have I been a loyal servant of my desires or a loyal servant of my fears? The answer is not found in what you claim to want. It is written in your choices, your habits, and the direction of your attention. If your days are filled with what you do not wish to experience, it is almost certain your mind has been dwelling more on what you fear than on what you truly want. Look carefully at any area of your life where you feel stuck. It might be your work, your finances, your self-confidence, your relationships, or your health. That area is not only a collection of circumstances, it is a mirror of your most repeated thoughts about it. A man who constantly thinks, "I am trapped in this kind of work," will, without realizing it, ignore every opening that points to something better. A man who constantly thinks, "I always lose money," will unconsciously spend, hesitate, or neglect in ways that fulfill his prediction. A man who constantly thinks, "People do not respect me," will carry himself in a manner that practically invites disrespect. The outer condition may look like fate, but beneath it you will always find a pattern of thought that came first. You may protest, "I did not choose these thoughts, they were given to me." Perhaps so. You may have heard fear speak through your parents, who worried about every risk. You may have heard it in teachers who mocked ambition. You may have heard it in companions who laughed at anyone who tried to rise. But there comes a time when you must stop merely repeating the voices of your past and decide what voice will rule your future. You may not be guilty for the first fearful ideas that entered your mind, but you are responsible for whether you continue to feed them. Imagine two men waking in the same small room. Both have modest means, both face uncertainty, both have known failure. The first lies still for a few moments and allows his mind to drift as it pleases. It goes immediately to what he dreads: unpaid bills, memories of past humiliation, images of being turned away, laughed at, rejected. He sighs, already tired before he has moved. When he rises, every action is colored by that mood. He moves slowly, speaks without conviction, postpones the very efforts that might help him, because in his mind the day is already lost. The second man opens his eyes and takes charge of his first thoughts. He says to himself, "Today I will move one step toward my chosen aim. I do not yet see the whole path, but I am capable of taking one clear action." He recalls not his worst defeat, but his strongest moment of perseverance. He allows himself to picture the man he is becoming: steady, useful, respected, effective. He does not pretend his challenges are gone. He simply refuses to let them occupy the center of his mind. When he rises, his energy is different. His step is more direct, his eyes more alert. He notices small chances the first man would overlook. He is not working miracles. He is working under better instructions. This difference in the first half hour of the day, repeated for months and years, will eventually produce lives that look like they belong to different species. One man will call the other lucky and relate tales of how everything is stacked against him. The other will know, though he may never boast, that his luck began when he stopped worshiping what he feared and began to serve what he wanted with his thoughts. To move decisively from fear-centered thinking to desire-centered thinking, you must stop respecting fear more than you respect your purpose. Many men bow to fear as if it were wisdom. They say, "My fear is keeping me safe." In truth, much of what they call safety is only stagnation. Yes, fear can keep you from certain dangers, but it can also keep you from every worthwhile risk. If you let it, it will keep you from the conversations that could change your career, the attempts that could change your abilities, the honest admissions that could change your character. Fear's goal is not your growth. Its only goal is to keep you where you are. Consider this. Every great advance in your life, however small, came from a moment when you acted against fear. The first time you tried something new, the first time you spoke up, the first time you endured a hard season without fleeing, each of these was a victory of desire over fear. Yet you quickly forget them and remember only the stumbles. You hold your failures close and let your quiet triumphs slip away. This is one way fear keeps its hold on your thinking. It trains you to remember only what supports its rule. You must reverse this habit. Begin to keep a written record of moments when you acted in spite of fear and prevailed, even in small ways. Write down the days when you persisted instead of quitting, the times when you spoke the truth though your voice trembled, the hours when you worked faithfully though no one watched. Review these often. You are not doing this to flatter yourself. You are doing it to retrain your mind's memory. You are telling your subconscious, I am not merely the sum of my failures. I am also the man who did these things. This gives your desire evidence to stand on when fear shouts its accusations. Another powerful method is to assign fear its proper place. Do not treat it as a prophet. Treat it as a nervous assistant. When fear rises and says, if you attempt this, you may fail, you answer, that may be so. What preparations must I make to give myself the best chance to succeed? When it says, people may laugh at you, you reply, if they do, that laughter will not kill me. What skills can I strengthen so that my work speaks louder than their mockery? In this way, you strip fear of its throne. It becomes a source of information, not of command. You use it to sharpen your plans, not to cancel them. To keep your thoughts focused on what you want, you must also decide clearly what you will no longer lend your imagination to. Many men spend more time picturing the success of their rivals than their own. They sit and resent another man's progress, replaying his victories in their minds as proof of their own inadequacy. Each such scene drains power from their own desire. While they nourish envy, their own plans starve. If you have been doing this, stop. The moment you feel jealousy rising, turn your thought deliberately. If such a thing is possible for him, it is proof that increase is possible. I will use this as inspiration, not as an excuse to shrink. Then immediately return to your own defined aim and imagine its advancement. You must also sever your alliance with worry over things you cannot control. Fear delights in dragging your mind into distant or invisible realms where you have no power to act. It will have you rehearsing disasters in foreign lands, future decades, or other men's minds. You lie awake trying to manage outcomes that are entirely beyond your reach. All the while, the things you do control, your effort today, your attitude, your words, your use of time, lie unattended. A man who focuses on what he cannot control will always feel weak. A man who focuses on what he can control begins to feel powerful, even before his outer circumstances change. Train yourself to catch wandering worry and bring it back to present action. If you find yourself thinking, what if everything collapses a year from now? Answer, if that happens, I will meet it with the strength I am building today. What can I do in this hour to be more prepared? Then do that. Perhaps it is saving a small sum instead of wasting it. Perhaps it is studying instead of idling. Perhaps it is repairing a relationship instead of letting resentment harden. Every time you convert a fearful thought about the future into a concrete action in the present, you weaken fear's grip and strengthen your own sense of agency. There is another enemy of focused thought you must confront. Indulgence in imaginary tragedies for their own sake. Some men have grown so accustomed to living in inner drama that they would feel empty without it. They sit in a quiet room and immediately begin to picture worst-case scenes, not to prepare for them, but to feel the familiar sting of imagined suffering. They wear out their nervous system with battles that never occur. Then, when a real challenge arises, they are too exhausted to deal with it. Purposeful thinking is very different. It does not avoid considering difficulty, but it does so with an aim. If this problem arises, what will I do? It turns imagination into rehearsal, not torment. It says, if my plan fails in this way, I will adjust in that way, and then lays the matter aside. It does not dwell endlessly on pain. It returns to the picture of what is to be built. If you find yourself nursing pain in your imagination purely to feel it, stop. You are allowing fear to feed on your energy. Redirect that same intensity into building a detailed picture of your desired outcome and the steps that lead toward it. Notice how all of this demands effort. It is much easier to let fear run its old tracks. The mind, like water, prefers the channels it has already carved. When you first try to change your thinking, you are like a man trying to dig a new course for a stream. The water will keep rushing back to its old bed. You must keep opening the new path, shovelful by shovelful, day after day. At first, only a trickle will follow it. Then more. Eventually, the old channel will dry from disuse. But this only happens if you persist. Many men start to redirect their thoughts, then after a few days of difficulty, throw down the tools and say, "It doesn't work." It is not that it does not work, it is that they did not continue far enough for the new course to be established. You may ask, how long must I do this? The correct answer is, as long as you wish to be free. You do not brush your teeth once and say, "I have finished." You brush them every day because you wish to keep them. In the same way, you do not direct your thoughts once and say, "From now on, they will all be pure." You guide them every day because you wish to remain master in your own mind. This is not a burden, it is the price of sovereignty. Do not overlook the power of environment in this work. If you spend your days in places and with people who constantly talk about failure, dishonesty, and hopelessness, it will be far harder to maintain a mind centered on what you want. You will be like a man trying to keep a flame alive in a gusting wind. Whenever possible, shift your surroundings in favor of your new focus. Seek out at least a few people who speak of improvement, who take responsibility, who are building something. Even if their field differs from yours, their attitude will feed your courage. Spend more time in spaces where you can think quietly and less in places where you are bombarded with noise and aimless chatter. You will also find it helpful to give your mind a statement of direction for each major area of your life. For example, in my work, I am moving toward mastery and usefulness. In my finances, I am moving toward order and surplus. In my character, I am moving toward integrity and calm strength. In my relationships, I am moving toward honesty and mutual respect. Repeat these until they feel like anchors. When fear arises in any area, return to the corresponding statement. It is a rope you can grab when the current tries to drag you back. As your thoughts begin to center more on what you desire, something subtle will change in how you meet difficulty. The same obstacles that once sent you into spirals of worry will now appear as problems to be worked on, not catastrophes to be suffered. You will still feel the sting, but it will not paralyze you. You will think, almost without trying, how can this be turned to advantage? What can I learn here? How can I grow stronger through this? These are the reflexes of a mind that has been trained to look for the path forward instead of the wall. This does not mean you will never again feel fear. You will. Fear is part of being human, but it will no longer be your chief counselor. It will be one voice among several, and not the loudest. Desire, purpose, faith, and reason will speak louder. They will say, yes, this is risky. Yes, the outcome is uncertain. But we are not here to worship safety. We are here to fulfill our assignment. And because you have been feeding those voices daily, with your focused thought, they will have strength enough to be heard. Ask yourself now, with all seriousness, are you willing to endure the discomfort of retraining your thinking? Or will you continue to endure the discomfort of a life ruled by fear? You cannot avoid pain altogether. Either you suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Either you sweat now in the work of directing your thoughts, or you weep later over years spent walking in circles. One pain is temporary and fruitful. The other is enduring and barren. The world is filled with men who can explain in detail what they do not want, what they hate, what they fear, what they cannot bear. It is thinner in men who can state clearly what they do want and are willing to hold that picture in their minds through storm and calm alike. The first kind are driven by avoidance. The second are led by vision. You have lived long enough as the first. Begin the work of becoming the second. Focus your thoughts on what you want, not as a childish daydream, but as a man draws a map before a journey. Then start walking in the direction you have drawn. When you meet resistance, and you will, refuse to run back into the arms of fear. Stand where you are, recall your aim, and ask what step, however small, keeps you moving toward it. Take that step. In doing so, you prove to yourself that your desires, not your fears, now hold command. That proof will strengthen you for the next step and the next. Bit by bit, thought by thought, action by action, you will find that your life has turned from a shrine to dread into a workshop of purpose. And from such a workshop, success finds it very hard to stay away. There is a final step in this work that separates the man who merely flirts with new thinking from the man whose whole life bends under its power. He must weld his thoughts, his words, and his actions into one line. Up to now you have seen that thought precedes action, that fear misdirects thought, and that desire, clearly held, can reclaim it. But unless you take the further step of making every part of your day serve that desire, you will always live in a divided state. Your mornings may be full of inspiring ideas, while your afternoons are surrendered to old habits. Your tongue may speak of purpose, while your hands still obey fear. True power begins when your thinking, speaking, and doing all march in the same direction. Begin by establishing, once and for all, the picture of what you truly want. Not 100 wishes that change with every mood, but one central aim that gives order to all others. You may have supporting goals in your work, your health, your character, your relationships, but beneath them, there must be a single thread, the kind of man you intend to become. Wealth, influence, and comfort are shallow prizes if you remain inwardly small. Decide, in definite words, who you mean to be. Steady under pressure, honest when tempted to deceive, diligent where others drift, courageous where others withdraw, disciplined where others obey impulse. This inner pattern, not any outward trophy, is your real object. Every other desire must report to it. Once you have chosen this inner image, you must tie your daily thought life to it. It is not enough to think, I want success, and leave it at that. Ask instead, how does a man of the kind I have described think about setbacks? About work? About time? About other people? Then begin to adopt those patterns deliberately. If the man you intend to become does not waste his mornings in aimless wandering of mind and body, neither can you. If he does not spend his days imagining disgrace, neither can you. If he looks at problems as assignments, not punishments, you must train yourself to do likewise. You cannot become a man of a certain character while reserving the right to keep the old thoughts that contradict it. This means that every time fear offers you its familiar images, you must ask a simple question. Does this thought belong to the man I am becoming? If it does not, it must be refused. Not wrestled with for hours, not caressed as if it were a dear companion, refused. You say inwardly, that is not my thought anymore. I will not lend my imagination to it. Then you replace it with a picture that does belong. You handling the difficulty with calm, you working through the problem, you standing your ground, you learning what must be learned. You will repeat this 100 times a day at first. That is not failure, that is training. You must also give your thinking a regular time of leadership each day. If you do not deliberately lead your mind, it will wander back into the valleys of fear by habit. Set aside a period, in the morning, in the evening, or both, when you do nothing but direct your thoughts toward what you want. Sit quietly. Take out the written statement of your chief aim and read it slowly. Then close your eyes and see yourself moving toward it. See yourself performing the daily duties with excellence, meeting resistance with persistence, handling setbacks with intelligence rather than panic. Do not hurry through this. A few concentrated minutes each day, repeated without fail, will do more to redirect the current of your life than hours of idle wishing. During this time, speak to yourself deliberately. Say, I am training my mind to serve my purpose, not my fear. My thoughts are under my command. I choose to dwell on what I want, not on what I dread. Every day I am becoming more capable, more disciplined, more clear. At first, your feelings may protest. They may whisper, you are lying. You are still cowardly, still confused, still weak. Do not be surprised. Your feelings are only the echo of old thoughts. They lag behind. Continue speaking truth to them until they catch up. You cannot wait until you feel like a strong man to begin talking like one. You begin talking like one, then prove your words with action. The feelings will follow in time. You must also guard the moments when your mind is most suggestible. When you wake, when you drift off to sleep, and when you are deeply tired. In those hours, fear loves to creep in and plant its pictures. How many times have you lain awake, replaying scenes of failure that have not occurred until your pulse quickened as though they were real? That is suggestion at work. From now on, you will not give those hours away so cheaply. When you wake, you will seize your first thoughts and point them toward your aim. When you lie down, you will feed your mind a picture of the kind of day you are building toward, not of disaster. If a fearful image appears, you replace it at once. Say firmly, that is not the ending I am writing. This is the ending I am working for, and see that instead. You may fear that focusing on what you want will make you proud or careless toward others. In truth, the opposite occurs when your aim is noble. A man who is clear about his purpose has less need to compete in petty ways. He does not envy the success of his neighbor because he is busy pursuing his own. He does not undercut others to feel tall because his stature is measured against his own standard, not theirs. As your thoughts become more occupied with building the life you are meant to live, you will find less appetite for gossip, idle criticism, and small cruelties. You will see that these things are luxuries only for men who have nothing better to do with their minds. You must, however, be on guard against a more subtle trap, using bright thoughts as an escape from hard realities instead of as fuel to confront them. Focusing on what you want does not mean closing your eyes to debts, obligations, or responsibilities. It means meeting them with a mind set on victory instead of defeat. If you are in financial strain, it is not enough to sit in a chair and dream of abundance. You must also face your accounts, make a plan, increase your competence, and cut waste. But this work will feel very different when your mind is centered on, I am moving toward order and strength, instead of, I am drowning and doomed. One state produces paralysis. The other produces creative problem solving. The facts may be the same. The inner direction changes everything. There will be days when you feel as if your new thinking has made no difference. You will catch yourself falling back into old fears. You will hear yourself say things you promised never to say again. Nothing ever works out. I should have known better than to try. I am not cut out for more than this. On such days, your first temptation will be to condemn yourself and quit. Resist that with all the strength you have. Condemnation is fear's oldest trick. It says, since you were not perfect, you are a fraud. Return to the old ways completely. Instead, treat each slip as a signal that more training is needed, not as proof that training is impossible. In those moments, you may simply stop, even in the middle of a sentence, and say inwardly, no. That is the old voice. I have decided to think differently. Then correct your words out loud if you can. Say, let me restate that. This is difficult, but I am learning. I have made mistakes, but I am not finished. I will use this as material for my growth. This may sound awkward at first, especially in front of others, but remember, you are not performing for them, you are re-educating yourself. Consistency in this practice will, over time, make the new thinking feel natural and the old feel foreign. When that reversal has happened, you will know that the law has taken firm root. You will notice another change. As your thoughts remain more firmly fixed on what you want, your sense of time alters. Fearful thinking makes every delay feel like doom. If progress is slow, fear shouts, "See, it is not working." You are wasting your energy. Desire-centered thinking sees delay differently. It says, the seed is in the ground. My job is to water it. You stop demanding that every effort produce immediate visible results. You understand that invisible processes are at work, that skills are forming, habits are hardening, characters deepening, connections are developing. You judge your days not solely by what you receive, but by whether you kept moving in the direction you declared. This patience is not passivity. It is trust in the law. You know that thought repeated becomes belief. Belief acted upon becomes habit. Habit sustained becomes destiny. You cannot always control the exact timing of harvest, but you can control the quality and consistency of the seeds. A mind fixed on what it wants will stay in the field long after a fear-driven mind has abandoned it. That staying power is often the only difference between the man who finally breaks through and the one who spends his life saying, "I almost did." Do not underestimate the power of gratitude in this work. Fear thrives on a mind that constantly measures what is missing and never acknowledges what is present. When you train yourself to notice and give thanks for progress, no matter how small, you shift your attention from lack to movement. You might say each evening, "Today I control my thoughts better than yesterday in 3 moments. Today I caught a fearful idea and replaced it. Today I spoke with more conviction. Today I resisted one impulse to surrender." These are not trivial. They are evidence that your inner climate is changing. A farmer rejoices at the first shoots breaking the soil. He does not curse the field because it is not yet a full harvest. At the same time, gratitude does not mean contentment with mediocrity. You can be deeply thankful for each step forward, while still holding a clear picture of the much greater man you are becoming. This combination, thankful for now, hungry for more, is a mark of maturity. Fear knows only 2 moods, despair or frantic grasping. Focused desire, sustained by gratitude, walks a quieter, stronger road. It says, "I am grateful for all that has brought me to this point, and I am determined to go further." As your thinking aligns with what you want, you will begin to feel a new sense of responsibility. You will recognize that no one else can do this inner work for you. Others may advise you, encourage you, or even oppose you, but you are the only one who can decide which thoughts rule your mind. This realization is both sobering and liberating. Sobering because you can no longer blame others for the images you choose to rehearse. Liberating because you are no longer at the mercy of their moods and opinions. The world outside can be turbulent. The world inside can remain under your command. In time, you will see proof that your new thinking has changed more than your feelings. It has changed your path. You will meet men and opportunities that seem almost strangely suited to your desires. You will find yourself in situations you once only pictured, now standing within them. The untrained mind calls this luck or fate. The trained mind sees it as the natural outcome of the law. You have been walking toward these things in thought for a long time. Now your feet have caught up. When this happens, do not fall into the old habit of fear and say, "This is too good. It cannot last." That is the voice of the former slave. Answer instead, "This is consistent with the man I have been becoming. I receive it with humility and responsibility." Then continue the same habits of thinking that brought you there. Many men lose their gains because they relax their vigilance once they taste success. They allow fear to whisper, "Now you have something to lose," and they begin once again to dwell on what they dread. In doing so, they invite the very loss they fear. Do not make that mistake. The law does not stop functioning because you have reached a new level. It continues. You must continue to use it consciously. In the end, the greatest reward of focusing your thoughts on what you want is not merely the outward achievements that follow, though these can be many. The greatest reward is the man you become in the process. One who is no longer dragged through life by every shadow that passes through his mind, but who stands as captain at the helm of his own inner world. You will still face storms, but you will not be the same frightened passenger you once were. You will know that whatever waves crash, your thoughts do not have to join their chaos. You can hold steadily to your chosen course. You will know you have truly changed when fear comes, as it always will, and you say calmly, "I see you." You may ride in the back, but you will not touch the reins. Then you turn your gaze back to what you want, the purpose you have chosen, the man you are committed to becoming, and you move forward. Day after day, this way of living will write a story that others may call impressive. But you will know it began in quiet hours, when no one watched, with a simple, repeated, stubborn choice to give your thoughts to your desires instead of to your fears. Let that be your resolve from this moment. You have served fear long enough. You have given it enough of your imagination, enough of your speech, enough of your precious years. Take back that power. Place your mind in the service of what you truly want. Hold that picture, feed it, speak it, act upon it. In doing so, you align yourself with a law that has never failed and never will. A man becomes outwardly what he honors most in his inner world. Honor your fears and you shrink. Honor your worthy desires and you rise.